Well, Jeremy, I'm going to say good morning. Do I have the time zone correct?
You do. I'm on East Coast. It's relative morning. Yeah.
Got it. Back to your New York roots. Well, thank you for taking the time. Secret Mall Apartment. To us, it's a new film. To you, years in the making. When did you actually wrap on it?
Yeah, thanks. And I appreciate chatting with you. I'm kind of in my own secret mall, my own secret apartment place somewhere, somewhere in the East Coast.
Somewhere, yep.
Um, yeah, so I started this movie. It was a long process because, what was so interesting was that the subjects of the movie, particularly the main ringleader of this
Hmm.
incredible, incredible story, Michael Townsend, they had been approached for years by other filmmakers to do a documentary, and they didn't want to do it. They were resisting it. They liked that this had become urban legend and lore. And over the course of several years, I really kind of made an effort and a pitch to let me be the person to make the documentary. So, though the movie itself probably took about 2 years, there was this longer stretch with me just, working with the artists and the subjects and getting to earn their trust that
Hmm.
they felt comfortable finally letting me make this documentary.
You actually answered a few things that I
Oh,
was
good.
going to ask with that. And I was curious which of your works that they were familiar with or helped gain the trust, or is it, hey, we both liked Fugazi and that's what got it?
Uh, it was a little of everything. You know what was so interesting was when I met Michael Townsend, and you people who watch and listen to you, they'll watch the movie and they'll be like, "Oh, he's this really interesting main character." But when I met him, it was in Athens, Greece, of like it's totally random. I was in Greece. I was filming another documentary, and that was this documentary that I made that's called Lily Topples the World,
Right.
and it's about the world's most acclaimed domino toppler. And people could check it out on HBO Max if they want. But what was so interesting was that Michael was kind of watching me make a documentary, which is this very interesting concept where a potential subject of a documentary was actually watching a potential director of their documentary at work. And I think that was really important for him to feel comfortable. And yeah, then they looked at my other films, all the artists, all the people involved in the secret department, and they just, I think, felt like I was very like-minded. A lot of my films are
Mhm.
about people who are really, kind of consumed by passion and art and focused on their own, what they want to do for sometimes for no reward or acclaim. And I think that really spoke to them.
Now, this is intended to be a compliment. So, your work is very complex, very interesting. You're picking subjects who haven't already been profiled by six people. And I find that people who make documentaries, they start off that way, and then before you know it, they start doing the documentaries about the pop stars on the world tours. They do that kind of transition. Was that ever part of your trajectory where you said, you know what, I'm eventually going to direct comedies and do pop star documentaries?
Hilariously, it absolutely not. I've always kind of pursued and been interested in stories and characters that are a little, off kilter, quirky, unusual, unorthodox. I'm very interested in people who are working outside of the lines a little bit of the status quo.
Yeah.
People that are doing things that are not how we typically think our lives should be lived. And often that's, people who are artists or just people who are like really consumed by what they're doing. A good example is my film, The World Before Your Feet, which also Jesse Eisenberg was a producer on, just like Secret Mall Apartment. And
Yes.
that's this movie about this guy walking every street of New York, and that's all he does. And he's been doing it for a decade. And, it's just something that when you make a documentary, you're really putting a lot of work in it. You're spending all time thinking about it and working on it and shooting it and
Hmm.
editing it. So I tend to really be attracted to stories that can keep my interest and my faith in a way, and not just let it feel like, oh, I'm doing this kind of puff piece, with celebrities or whatever. So I've never done a celebrity thing, never done true crime, never done any of that. I'm only really interested in this kind of little pocket of stories.
And where you're shooting your documentaries or where your subjects are from, the continents keep changing from project to project. But is most of the editing itself and the production work done in New York or LA?
Yeah, I think maybe I'm also a little unusual from other documentary filmmakers in that, I tend to shoot a lot myself. I also tend to edit a lot
Mhm.
myself. Secret from My Apartment, I had a great co-editor, Paul Murphy, but my other films, often I'm editing, and usually I'm editing in New York and just kind of all over the place as I'm shooting. I'm doing another documentary now. I'm finishing up now. So different from Secret Mall Apartment, but it's set in Korea and it's about,
Yes.
a story in Korea. And it just kind of like shows like, the documentary filmmaker's life is just all over the place. You leapfrog all over the place.
Yeah, I was alluding to the different continents
Yeah.
with reference to the Korea one, which I'm looking forward to as well. But are you able to work on multiple projects at the same time these days?
Yeah, that's one of the challenges of being a documentary filmmaker, especially one like myself that has kind of resisted to some degree that kind of Netflix, big budget approach to filmmaking. I think my documentary filmmaking is a little bit more in the, it's very much more in the independent zone. It's
Yeah,
a little bit more, I guess you would say, like auteur filmmaking a little bit. I don't want to get too pretentious about anything, but it makes things always challenge. You're always like, rubbing nickels together to keep things going and finding new investors and new ways to kind of keep in the financing going with these films. So now I've started to kind of juggle more than one project, and that is a way to both continue making films, which I love and feel really honored to be able to do, but also to continue kind of making it work in terms of like revenue. So yeah, I'm kind of like working on two things at once now a lot, which a lot of my peers are also doing who are in the same field.
yeah. Well, entirely related to that, Secret Mall Apartment is self-distributed. It's the
Yes.
DIY ethic. When did you realize that that wasn't a burden, but actually a strength to be going the DIY route? Do you have a punk rock background, for example? And I did mention
Yeah.
Fugazi before.
Yeah. And I obviously I'm a big fan of punk rock and Fugazi, by the way.
Yeah.
And was thrilled also in Secret Mall Apartment that I got to go, have a whole section in that movie about Fort Thunder and Lightning Bolt, which were these like sort of noise rock bands
Oh,
in the
yeah.
90s
From
that sort
Japan.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That sort of come out of that, kind of, punk Fugazi sort of vibe from the East Coast. Anyway, yeah, when we started realizing that there was real excitement about this movie, Mall Apartment, that audiences loved it, and it was just this kind of movie that wherever you played it to any demographic, people really enjoyed it. They had a great time, and they had a great time like at the movies. They didn't. They loved kind of coming and just experiencing it with other people, all different demographics, all different ages. And we realized very soon after we premiered at South by Southwest, and very soon after, I was just like, we could release this. Why would we, hand over this movie to some distributor they're not even that great these days. They're so worried about everything and they have so
Yeah.
many concerns. And we were just like, couldn't we do this ourselves? And we kind of embrace the spirit of the film, which is very, I guess you could say is very punk rock, is very
Sure.
DIY, is very much about these artists who are just like doing something on their own and trying to level it up the whole time and don't care, are kind of putting a middle finger to the corporate man. So we kind of were inspired by that and then decided to do that with the release of the film. And it turned out to be a great choice for us. Worked out great.
My last question before I let you go. The projects you work on involve using your brain a lot, plus you got the business stuff going on. Do you have any dumb hobbies?
Yeah. Do I have dumb hobbies? I for a while I used to say that making documentaries was my hobby, but I, just because it was so all consuming that if I looked at it like, okay, this is just a hobby, then it kind of relieved it of being like a job or a burden and just made it fun. So for many years, I was kind of like trying to hold on to that. But as far as specifically to your answer, I have a ridiculous hobby, and that is I do calligraphy. Like we're talking like old school, old lady, calligraphy that you would see like, on Christmas and wedding invitations, like just like the most like useless, random, art that you could imagine. I think that it's so different from like everything that I do, and it's so not like commercial for any purpose that that's kind of why I like it.
Oh yeah, I had calligraphy for my bar mitzvah invitation, so
Exactly.
in my
Like people
wheelhouse.
have asked me to do it on their invitations, and I'm like, sure. I've never got paid for it, but I really enjoy doing it.
Goals. Well, in the meantime, hey, seriously, congratulations on this film being seen all the way through, getting the excellent reviews, the festival treatment, etc. Looking forward to what's to come from you, and really, thank you for the years of great art, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, we're so excited to now share Secret Mall Apartment wider. It's coming out on digital, and everybody could find it. So I just really appreciate it. Thanks for your questions, and pass it on to all your fans and followers.
Paltrocast.